Flying into and out of Las Vegas could soon become more expensive after budget airline Spirit Airlines gets ready to reduce the number of routes that they fly.
U.S. airline giants like Delta and United saw their stock prices soar last year, but Spirit Airlines was down 90% before it filed for bankruptcy.
393 employees will be furloughed starting December 1st. The company expects the move to be temporary, but admits it does not know how long the furloughs will.
I'm much more concerned about the ripple effect associated with that. Every one of those seats that doesn't come to Las Vegas is a little more than $1,000 that isn't being spent on hotel rooms and gaming and eating and drinking and shopping in our stores.
Spirit seems pretty full, so I don't know what put him into bankruptcy.
As if late-night comedians needed another reason to make fun of Spirit Airlines. This pioneering low-cost airline filed for bankruptcy in November, and with that, a major chapter in the history of American mass tourism came to a close. For years, Spirit has been a symbol of cutting to the bone. Cramped seats, separate baggage fees, no free water. But in return, ticket prices are so low that they've made Las Vegas a weekend destination for millions of American workers. Spirit doesn't just sell plane tickets. They sell the possibility of belonging to the American dream, even if only for 3 days in the Nevada desert. Now that Spirit has disappeared from the sky, Vegas is losing the lifeblood that sustained it. The budget travelers who used to flock here on $49 flights. Other companies immediately raise prices, while the city, built on the concept of anyone can come here, is facing a harsh reality. Las Vegas is slowly returning to being a playground for the wealthy. The bankruptcy of Spirit Airlines is not just a financial tragedy. It's a sign that an era has passed. An era when America once believed that travel didn't have to be a privilege of the upper class. In today's video, join us as we trace the paths of these flights across the sky and see why the collapse of a low-cost airline could shake the entire US tourism industry. The sky over Las Vegas was still ablaze, but a certain light had gone out. Spirit Airlines, the yellow giant that once brought low-cost flights to millions of Americans, has disappeared from the scene after filing for bankruptcy for the second time in less than a year. For many, this might just be a disappearing airline. But for the millions of passengers who have chosen Spirit to fly to Vegas, visit grandchildren, or simply escape where they were stuck, this marks the end of an era. The era of democratizing the American sky. Spirit was once hailed as a discount pioneer, a pioneer in making air travel accessible. But now, the company has become the first major US airline to go bankrupt since American Airlines 13 years ago. Before filing, Spirit's stock had fallen over 90%, while competitors like Delta and United were still growing strongly. The vibrant yellow that once covered the fuselage is now just a memory, a symbol of an America where workers still had the ability to fly. After the pandemic, the US airline industry is no longer what it used to be. Supply chain disruptions, fuel and labor costs up over 30%, and the Pratt & Whitney engine recall grounding dozens of aircraft. Spirit, which caters to price-sensitive customers, cannot raise ticket prices to cover costs like airlines that serve business travelers. Weak sales, coupled with the failed merger with JetBlue, are increasingly depleting the airline. From 2019 to the present, Spirit has never been profitable and has lost over $1 billion. The pandemic was just the beginning. The post-pandemic economy is the knockout punch. When declaring bankruptcy, Spirit simultaneously announced the layoff of nearly 1,800 employees, a third of whom were flight attendants, just before the Christmas holiday season, the busiest travel time of the year. Reuters noted that the airline was preparing to furlough a third of its fleet during the holiday travel rush, leaving thousands of workers jobless right when they needed income the most. A series of flights were cancelled, passengers' travel plans were disrupted, and the shock spread throughout the system. Hotels, casinos, restaurants, local service industries, all were affected. In Las Vegas, the domino effect has also begun. When the airline announced massive flight cuts, tickets to and from Las Vegas suddenly became more expensive. The entertainment capital of the world, now empty, not a metaphor, but a reality. The blackjack tables are empty, and the bars that were once packed are now only staffed by employees slowly wiping glasses. The hotel lobby was silent, the casino dimly lit, and the airport terminal, once bustling with flight announcements, was now only filled with the whirring of air conditioning. Vegas once thrived on Spirit's $49 flights, with workers flying in to enjoy a few days off and then returning to work after the weekend. Now that Spirit has stopped flying, thousands of empty seats in the sky mean thousands of jobs have disappeared on the ground. From pilots and flight attendants to hotel housekeepers, everyone felt the void left by the disappearance of cheap. Actually, this collapse didn't happen overnight. Spirit was once a pioneer, lowering ticket prices and forcing major airlines like United and Delta to join the price war. For millions of Americans, it was once a miracle. For the first time, flying was no longer a privilege of the upper class, but the a la carte model. Cheap tickets, but extra charges for everything, from baggage to water bottles, gradually became a burden during a period of rising costs. As fuel, labor, and maintenance costs increase, this strategy is no longer sustainable. At the same time, major airlines are fighting back with basic economy fares. Still cheap, but passengers get drinks, free Wi-Fi, and a greater sense of reliability. Spirit couldn't compete, caught between a 30% increase in costs and a customer base that couldn't pay a penny more. The airline is still ranked as one of the safest in the United States, but it is also the most complained about, a symbol of an outdated model. When the Spirit stopped flying, Vegas lost the common wings that had carried millions of working-class and middle-class people to the promised land. Not only did the plane stay grounded, an entire dream landed. The sky is silent, and America's cheap dreams are also silent. This is no longer just the story of an airline, but a signal of the end of an entire era. Does the cheap-for-all model still have a place in a post-pandemic America, where everything is more expensive, but trust is lower? Because when Spirit disappears from the sky, not only does Vegas become emptier, but an entire generation that once believed the American dream could fly on a $49 ticket is also slowly falling free. As Las Vegas lights up its festive streets, bad news spreads throughout the airline industry. Spirit Airlines, the symbol of budget flights, announces bankruptcy for the second time in just 1 year. But behind that number lies more than just a balance sheet. That's the human cost, where thousands of livelihoods were swept away in a single night. About a third of the flight attendants and nearly 1,800 employees were laid off just before the festival tourism season, the time they were most looking forward to for increased income. The company began cutting staff on December 1st, with 393 employees losing their jobs. Management called it temporary, but no one knows how temporary it will be. Additionally, over 300 pilots were also furloughed, and that number is expected to increase. For them, bankruptcy is not just a legal term, it's a sentence for the future. As Spirit shrinks, the effect spreads quickly to Las Vegas. Visitor numbers fell by 11%, hotels were empty, casinos were less lively, and many flights were removed from the schedule. Every cancelled flight, every empty room, every closed route, all mean a lost paycheck, a dropped future. More than 4,000 service workers, from hotel staff, bartenders, and airport employees to housekeepers, are facing layoffs or severe reductions in working hours. Many people live on tips, but when the number of customers dwindles, so do the tips. One employee shared, "A year ago, I was making $250, $200 a day. Now there are $50, $60 left. From $60 a night in tips, it's down to $20, or from working full-time, it's now only 2 shifts a week." Major corporations like MGM Resorts International and Resorts World also announced hundreds of job cuts, causing the entire city to slow down. It's not just an economic blow, but a spiritual wound. The people who once believed Las Vegas would never sleep are now witnessing that very dream fading away day by day. Some people turn to food banks to get by, while others pack up and leave the city to seek opportunities elsewhere. The Culinary Workers Union calls this the deepest and most personal economic wound since the D. Some people turn to food banks to get by, while others pack up and leave the city to seek opportunities elsewhere. The Culinary Workers Union calls this the deepest and most personal economic wound since the COVID pandemic. And indeed, this is no longer about stocks or corporate strategy. It's about the real lives of real people. These are parents who can't afford rent, young people who have to postpone college, and immigrants whose dreams are put on hold. When a system built on endless growth begins to collapse, the tray carriers, gas changers, drink pourers, and baggage weighers are the first to feel the fall, and the last to recover. Is this the end of budget travel? If a $19 ticket can't keep a plane in the air or keep workers employed, then perhaps it was never a sustainable model. Because ultimately, when even America's cheapest skies stop flying, not only does the dream of travel collapse, but so does the belief that hard work can buy stability. In the skies over America, a perfect storm is brewing, and not just in the atmosphere. It's the intersection of inflation, policy, and an outdated economic model that's causing the once thriving budget travel system, which flourished for decades, to begin to crack. When Spirit Airlines collapsed, it wasn't just due to mounting debt or rising fuel prices. That was the result of a storm that swept across the entire industry simultaneously. Fuel prices and labor costs have increased by over 30% since 2019. Pratt and Whitney engines have been recalled, grounding dozens of aircraft. And the government's tightening of border policies and extended visa processing times have forced millions of international visitors to cancel their plans to come to the United States. In Las Vegas, a city that thrives on tourism, the number of international visitors decreased by nearly 20% in the first half of the year alone. Ticket bookings from Mexico decreased by 23%, and from Canada by as much as 40%. Those who once considered Vegas a quick and cheap getaway now have to count every penny, simply because the cost has become unaffordable. Just the US visa for a family of four cost over $1,000, not including airfare, hotel, and additional fees. This soft barrier has become a real obstacle for the international middle class, who were once the heart of the budget travel model. Even Americans are starting to turn away. Hotel fees, resort fees, and even parking fees are increasing rapidly. A smart vacation in Vegas isn't smart at all anymore. When hotel prices per night increased by 40%, food and drink costs doubled, and even morning coffee was subject to a service tax. The budget travel paradise transformed into an economic equation with no solution. Spirit Airlines once represented a simple belief that anyone can fly, that the American dream is still within reach. But as costs escalated, immigration policies tightened, and tourists tightened their purse strings, the cheap-for-all model collapsed. That perfect storm not only blew away profits, it also blew away the belief that America is the most accessible destination in the world. Therefore, this is no longer the private story of an airline or a city. It's a sign that the system is self-contradictory, where policy, prices, and economic models collide, leaving an unbridgeable gap. Vegas is silent not because it's lost its neon lights, but because it's lost the people who once illuminated them. If cheap no longer exists, will travel in the US still be accessible to everyone? And if even companies once considered the last hope, like Spirit Airlines, can't take off, who will be left to fly through this storm? The neon lights on the Las Vegas Strip still shine, but behind that facade of light lies a different reality. America is shrinking, starting with Vegas. It's not because of war, not because of disaster, but because of something more subtle. People can no longer afford to have fun. According to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, LVCVA, visitor volume to Vegas decreased by over 11% during the summer, with June alone seeing a drop of over 11% compared to the same period last year. Hotel occupancy is only about 76%, the lowest in many years. Even luxury hotels are not reaching 80%. For a city once proud of never sleeping, this is almost unimaginable. Walking along the Strip, stores that were once packed with customers are now eerily empty. Retail staff say they have never seen a year with so few international visitors as this one, especially from Asia. No more Chinese or Korean tour groups shopping and taking pictures. Only a few small groups, quietly looking at the discount signs, but still hesitant. This silence is not just a psychological issue. It is a direct consequence of a chain of economic collapses spreading from the sky to the ground. After Spirit Airlines, the largest low-cost carrier ever to operate there, cut winter operations by over 50%, Vegas lost over 3,000 flights and 8 routes connecting second and third tier cities across the US. For many working class people and budget travelers, those 49 other flights are the only thread connecting them to the Vegas dream. And when Spirit left, the entertainment supply chain, from taxi drivers and receptionists to waiters, lost its rhythm. The Vegas model survives on optional spending. But when fun becomes a luxury, everything collapses like dominoes. Bars reduced their opening hours, restaurants cut staff, and performances were forced to sell cheap tickets or cancel shows. And that's the scariest part. Vegas doesn't lose its mood seasonally. It's declining slowly, silently, and structurally. The lights still shone brightly, but behind them was an economy that was slowly weakening. Where the American entertainment dream once brought joy, it now reflected uncertainty. As the lights of Vegas slowly dim, not due to a power outage, but a lack of people, is this a sign of an America that is withdrawing, quietly retreating from the very dream it once created? The sky is no longer cheap, and the scary thing is, it's happening every place. After Spirit Airlines declared bankruptcy, the repercussions spread far beyond the borders of the United States. It's not just tourist cities like Las Vegas or Orlando that are feeling that cold wave. From London to Tokyo, Warsaw to Manila, the low-cost airline industry, the symbol of the anyone can fly era, is entering its longest winter since the pandemic. In the US, the CEO of Frontier Airlines, a carrier that relies on extremely cheap fares, had to admit, travel demand is really struggling. Meanwhile, Allegiant Air was forced to cut staff and positions, with 87 people and 220 related positions directly affected. What was once the pride of the ultra-low-cost model has now become a burden. Escalating costs, passengers tightening their belts, and empty seats in resort markets. In Europe, Ryanair and Wizz Air, two icons of budget travel, are postponing aircraft deliveries, cutting routes, and warning that ticket prices will continue to rise. Some intra-block domestic routes have been completely cancelled because it is no longer possible to maintain profitability with low fares. In Asia, LCCs like AirAsia, Scoot, and Vietjet face a double whammy: rising fuel prices and weakening intra-regional travel demand. The entire industry is shrinking like a tightly compressed spring. Not because there's a lack of people who want to fly, but because everything has become too expensive, too complex, and too tiring. According to the International Air Transport Association, IATA, global leisure travel in 2025 will decrease by nearly 9%, not because the world has lost its wanderlust, but because people's wallets and spirits have been depleted after the pandemic. People are flying less, staying longer, and choosing destinations more purposefully. Instead of weekend flights to shows or casinos, they're seeking out quiet spots or simply staying home. In response, airlines are changing their strategies. Instead of racing to be cheap, they are shifting to service tiering. From premium economy and extra legroom to comfort plus, the airline industry is redesigning the skies for those who can still afford it. The result? Revenue from premium seats at Delta has surpassed standard seats. United is expanding its economy plus class, with premium revenue up 5% and basic economy up 20% year over year. Meanwhile, low-cost carriers like Spirit or Frontier, which lack credit ecosystems, rewards programs, or bank partnerships, are left behind in the financial race. If even flying, a symbol of freedom, becomes a privilege for the wealthy, how much room is left in this world for ordinary dreams to take flight? Perhaps the most ironic thing about the collapse of Spirit Airlines isn't that a low-cost airline went bankrupt, but rather the costly lesson it left for an entire era. That cheap has never truly been cheap. For many years, the slogan, "Tickets from just 19.2", became a symbol of freedom, of the modern American dream, where anyone could fly. But behind that number lies a system that lives on the illusion of low cost. When you add in baggage fees, seat selection, drinks, and even convenience fees, the total ticket price often reaches the level of traditional airlines, the only difference being that the experience is worse, while profit margins are close to zero. According to CNBC's assessment, the ULCC, ultra low-cost carrier model, is not dead, but it is forced to resize, shrink and restructure to survive in the new reality. With fuel and labor costs constantly rising, flying more to earn more is no longer effective. Spirit, Frontier, and Allegiant all had to sell off part of their fleets to raise cash, lay off hundreds of employees, and reduce their route networks. Some analysts predict Spirit could renegotiate the merger in 2025, as the only way to survive in the reshaping ecosystem. But this story isn't just about the airline. It reflects the American household economy, where financial fatigue is eroding the middle class's ability to play. In Las Vegas, discretionary spending has decreased significantly. When each $90 ticket leads to the company going bankrupt, pilots losing their jobs, and hotel staff having their hours cut, it's no longer sustainable cheap, but self-destructive cheap. For decades, the tourism and aviation industries have pursued a single philosophy: more. More flights, more rooms, more visitors. But it was that endless race that pushed the industry's overall safety margin close to zero. When just one link breaks, the whole system collapses. More sometimes doesn't add value, but only weakens the system faster. When cheap no longer means good, and much no longer means sustainable, are we, who once enjoyed the freest travel era in history, ready to enter a new era where true value comes from how we fly, not how many times we fly? And so, a long chapter in American history came to a close. From the $19 tickets that opened the door to mass tourism, to the moment Spirit Airlines collapsed, we witnessed a ceiling being reached, where cheap was no longer a symbol of opportunity, but became a sign of systemic fatigue. Vegas is silent, not for lack of lights, but for lack of faith. The flights that once carried the dreams of the middle class now sit idle on the runway, a reminder that everything cheap comes at a price. And that price, in the end, wasn't money, but trust, jobs, and the memory of an America that once believed anyone can fly. Perhaps what remains after all is not mourning for an airline, but a question for all of us. If the dream of anyone can fly is slowly falling to the ground, will America have the courage to rebuild it in a fairer, more sustainable, and more human way? If you feel this story resonates with you, please leave a comment. What do you think about the future of budget travel in the US and around the world? Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to continue exploring with us the hidden corners that are reshaping the American dream in the post-golden age. The content in this video is compiled from various public sources, including news reports, economic analyses, and expert commentary. All information, data, and opinions are presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and inspiration, and are not intended to affirm, condemn, or judge any individual, organization, or government. The quotes and facts used are presented with respect for the original sources and aim to provide a multifaceted perspective on current socio-economic issues. Viewers are encouraged to consult additional information from official sources before drawing conclusions or sharing opinions. This is not a call to financial investment or political action, but a journey to reflect on how America and the world is changing through fluctuations that seem to belong only to cheap tickets.